Hey people, crazy times, huh? This is Brother Zygos checking in. Really wanting to do some more videos, and I figure I might as well do them now that I've got a lot of the other, nitty-gritty out of the way. It gets to some topics I really love to talk about, particularly astrology. And just gonna pepper that in here more to my news or my video feed, so that I'm actually wanting to make more videos, because that's really what I like talking about. And spend so much time kind of talking about sort of the modalities that I've used to heal. It's kind of taking the front seat because I thought it was the most important, but I think it's time to kind of make a shift, and I can tie that stuff into a lot of these ideas I'm going to be presenting on this channel. So the topic of the day, Mercury is in retrograde currently, and a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about Mercury retrograde that maybe like loosely know astrology. A lot of people that don't know astrology just get annoyed, and they think it's just anytime Mercury is in retrograde, everyone's complaining or something, and which is true. A lot of people just dread it and think it's the worst thing in the world, but it's really not. I mean, it just kind of depends on what you've been doing the past 3 months, what you've been doing the past year, what you've been doing the past 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, whatever, that's piled up and that comes out in the retrograde. If you cleaned up a lot of stuff, it's generally not going to be popping up when Mercury is in retrograde. And really, when Mercury is in retrograde, a little bit of the astronomy behind this is, so obviously planet Earth, Gaia, what have you, is the third planet from the sun. And so the inner planets, next is Venus, close to the sun, and then after that is Mercury, the closest to the sun. And Mercury, when it goes around the sun, it only stays in the sign to each side of what the sun is in, or the sign the sun is in, and it sort of just swings back and forth. Every 3 months it goes retrograde, and it goes retrogrades way back, basically the past 3 months, and then checks back through whatever path the sun is going. And the reason for that is because from our perception, the sun, when the sun is on the far side, you think about it from looking above, going counterclockwise. From above, you would notice that when it's getting closer from our angle, it would look as though once it goes around that curve, like it's going around, and then when it starts to turn the corner, it, from our perspective, is going backwards. And that's really all it means. It's just seeing the perception of it going in reverse, when really it's just an illusion based on its proximity to us. So when it's in retrograde, it is closer to the Earth. That's why it flies in retrograde so quickly, because it's just flying through those, well, not really the constellation anymore, but the sign. So I wanted to talk a little bit about these perceptions of Mercury retrograde, and why people dread it so much. I think is kind of funny, because I always notice the people that dread it, or that are just really have a lot of anxiety about it, and like, oh my god, it's so horrible, Mercury's going retrograde. And they're usually people that have a lot of business that they don't want to deal with. They're like people that are in denial about some things, or they're people that have kind of not been doing what they should, made some bad choices, and they don't want to deal with them, because that's usually, even subconsciously, if they don't know that's the reason, it's not that things are just bad when Mercury's in retrograde. It's your things might be bad, or if they're good, you just bask in the success and just chill out. It's really not a bad thing. But if you this is funny, little anecdotal evidence from myself. I mean, this is neither here nor there, but the first day Mercury was in retrograde, I got bit by a dog for the third time in my life, which is hilarious. It was a pit bull. Luckily, my pants protected me, but the teeth were so strong, bite was so strong, it crushed into my leg. But luckily, the teeth didn't get in there. And it's just been a string of events from there, like, I don't know what that symbolized. Third time in my life I've been bit by a dog. That was just on the street, random dog on a leash, but you know, like that happened on my way here. This is kind of hilarious. I just ripped a hole in my pants. Like, I'm doing this video right now with a big hole in the backside of my pants that the seat just ripped right through them. Need new pants, you know, your pants gave out. That happens in retrograde. It's just when stuff wears down, stuff's been neglected, you haven't been maintaining things. The sink popped a leak, you know, at my house. It just had been neglected, and finally it just, you know, a crack formed and it's just leaking water everywhere. This is the kind of stuff. So it's not necessarily electronics, you know, it can be any matter of mechanical thing, including the human body. Your own body will break down in Mercury retrograde if you've been neglecting it. You'll get sick, or, you know, your back will start hurting really bad. You'll have to rest. And, you know, relationships will suffer sometimes. I'm not like a really, you know, I kind of been kicking it solo lately, but I did date someone last year, and this has been a pattern I've noticed, is I have a struggle getting through those. Even the honeymoon phase is when that's over. It's usually Mercury comes right into retrograde, and it doesn't survive. The relationship just implodes during Mercury retrograde. And it's kind of a sad thing. I mean, I'm trying to learn from these experiences myself, because I mean, not what I want in my life, that's for sure. But it's interesting thing about this kind of karma thing, and another little anecdote. This is something from, you know, like a couple of years ago that happened. I live in Portland here, but I live right next to a little strip mall. It's kind of like an old building, like probably almost 100-year-old building, but it's like, you know, a flat roof kind of, but older brick style. And there's just like some, you know, clothing stores and like nail salons and stuff there. And there's problems with homeless people, street people. Really, they're like pretty gnarly people, honestly. I mean, I live right there. I have to deal with them all the time. But, you know, they're getting drunk and they sleep in the doorway. And, you know, it's rainy in Portland where I live. So, I mean, I understand that, honestly. It's like, I mean, I never like yell at anybody or whatever. It's like, get out of the rain. But still, you know, for a shopkeeper, that stuff becomes a problem. And so what these people did, they all got together with the building manager, and they decided to put these gates up all across the front of the building, to the doorways, so they couldn't even get under the awning, basically. And so they did this when Mercury was in retrograde. They put those all up, and I'm not exactly sure who did it, if it was a homeless person or whatever, but when Mercury went direct, like seriously, like right within a week of it going direct, someone broke all the doors down. They totally just destroyed the hinges. They were unusable. They couldn't lock them anymore. They were just useless. That's kind of the stuff that kind of sometimes happens when you try to do something like that. When Mercury's in retrograde, it'll just be reversed. So that's why you got to be careful with, you know, with your choices when you're in retrograde, and that's why some people say don't sign contracts and all that stuff, because it might just reverse and implode on itself when it goes direct and just undo whatever you did, you know. And so that's funny. This is also being reflected in the news right now with Jussie Smollett. And, that's another story, but it's interesting. So the Trump investigation, and I might pepper in a little more politics here and there, even though I have no right-left affiliation. I think it's bullshit, and I don't prescribe to a political party. I'm more of a volunteerist sort of philosophy in my life, that I don't really need to believe in someone else's dogma, but volunteer my goodwill to my fellow man. That's why I live. But but I still follow politics because they're fascinating, and what's going on right now is completely fascinating, and I think it is going somewhere where there is going to be retribution coming down the line through these chain of events. I think they are leading up to a lot of disclosure and unveiling, because of it's sort of like the snake is it's destroying itself, you know. It's going it's just a chain reaction of self-implosion going on. But with the Trump investigation, he obviously he's been, I don't know if exonerated is the word, but not guilty, or no one in his that were investigated or indicted they found that there was no collusion with Russia, even though that obviously the mainstream media has been pushing that for the past 2 years at least, 2.5 years. And that's kind of funny, like that's kind of the stuff that that's been 2 years of bullshit, and now it's like, in 1 week, it's just done, 3 weeks, whatever, in Mercury Retrograde. And that's kind of stuff that might happen. Finally, the karma will catch up, and the retribution will be felt. It's like undo whatever kind of thing, if it was based on bullshit, will come up and reveal itself, any kind of lie or anything. But similarly, this is a strange thing, because in more recent events, the Jussie Smollett thing happened, obviously, when Mercury was direct, and then it went, and he got in, all this information came out about it being a hoax, staged attack. And now it's interesting that now that Mercury's retrograde, bam, nope, he's not even found not guilty, he's not exonerated. In fact, they say he did it, but he's paying penance through whatever, like community service or something. And it's like, wait, what? And this is a situation where I think, like the gates coming down, because it was so hastily kind of planned thing, it might actually go back to, some corruption, even maybe back to Mr. O, our ex-president, that all of a sudden it's like total bullshit. And they're like doing this when Mercury is in retrograde. And what I'm saying is, like, when that kind of stuff happens, like, you better watch out, Jussie, because when Mercury goes direct again, this is going to be undone. But also, not only that, I think it's going to really go all the way back, and there's going to be a chain of events that's going to go way back to the Democratic Party and possibly the Republican Party, all of the governmental, like the two-party system, and show the corruption and expose it. And this might be even a trick of Trump's, because he's not a politician, he's not of the old guard, he's not like saying I like him, I don't, but he's actually pretty smart about playing people against themselves. And I think that's what has been kind of done here. And maybe just Mother Nature's playing them against themselves, because that's what naturally will occur. So, like, just look out for that coming up in the next, month or two or less or more. Anyways, that's a little bit I just wanted to share with the whole Mercury retrograde idea, dispel some misconceptions about it, and just give you my take on it, and hopefully you can learn something from what I've shared. And if you like what I said, like my presentation, just like the video, subscribe. I'm pretty small, no one really follows me, I don't make videos that much, but I think my astrology perspective, I think could bring a perspective, if you're studying that or you want to know it, that I think a lot of people could really resonate with and learn it in a kind of more matter-of-fact way than is being taught. So I'm going to continue to make these videos, and I may even start doing big lectures with a dry erase board, and just teaching the astrology in a very quick and comprehensible way. And so just stay tuned for that. Anyways, Brother Zygo signing out. Nice talking to you. See you soon.